Hi, I'm Eric,
And I'm Heather.
and we're pre-engaged.
Welcome to another pre-engaged mailbag video.
Lindsey from Bargersville, Indiana asked us, when you're newly married, would you recommend living near your family in the first couple of years of marriage?
Well, there's no perfect answer to that question, but we would recommend that you ask yourselves three questions. First, what is your relationship with your parents and family like now? Is there a mutual respect? Do they treat you like an adult, or do they tend to try to control you?
The second group of questions deals with loyalty. And so if you live near your parents, would you struggle with loyalty issues? Would you have a hard time cutting the cord and putting needs of your spouse and future kids over your family's desires and demands? Loyalty is a big issue.
hmm And will living near your parents be a blessing or hindrance to your life? If you have older siblings who have already been married, kind of use them as a gauge. What happened with them when they got married? Did your parents kind of pull back and cut the cord, or did they tend to be in their business? That might give you a little bit of a clue as to how they might treat you if you lived near them.
Yeah. Having family nearby can be a great blessing, and how wonderful it is to have people close by that can help you rush over for emergencies or help you move or help with house projects. It's also to help. It's also great to have their support, with babysitting.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and it's also great just to have the support and wisdom of your parents and nearby when there's a healthy relationship between you two.
Definitely. There's also some challenges, though. It can be harder to emotionally leave your parents if they're so nearby because you have the option of always going over there or they can always stop by. And it's just really easy to kind of keep that child parent thing going versus the spouse to spouse adult relationship going. You and your spouse are going to need a lot of time, and especially in that first year, to be alone together, to really get to know each other and to kind of create that family dynamic that you want. And even though living near your parents doesn't have to hinder that, if you're not careful, it can. So you need to be sure that if that is an option in your life that you are living near them, that you take careful precautions to make sure you get that special time together.
Absolutely. Also, if you do choose to live near your parents, be sure to do three things. The first one is to create and keep solid boundaries. Boundaries are very important to establish with your future spouse, and a boundary is something that you place on yourself. It's a limiter for yourself so that if someone else does something, this is how you're going to respond if that event happens. You can't change other people, so it's not a boundaries on other people, it's a boundaries for yourself. It's important to remember. Number two, put your spouse's needs before your family's needs. It's very, very important to make sure that your spouse or your future spouse comes first, because ultimately you're leaving your family, you're cleaving to your husband or wife, and it's very, very important to do that. Lastly, to not call your family when you and your spouse get into a fight, or bring your parents or your family into your business. That can cause all sorts of frustration and anger with each other, and it's just not a good idea to air your dirty laundry. If you do need to, bring someone, from the outside in, consider a pastor or a mentor figure, or even a good counselor to work through the issues. So,
And you have to remember you will forgive your spouse quickly. Your family will not. They
yes,
will remember the bad times and you'll remember the bad and the good, but mostly the good if you have a relatively healthy marriage. But your family's going to remember all the tidbits, the bad stuff, because chances are you're not going to call them every time something good happens.
hmm
So, based on everything we've told you today, we would recommend you sit down together and just make a pro con list. Either write it down or verbally, and just decide between the two of you what would be the best decision for you at this point in your life. Would living near your parents as a newlywed bless you based on the just what you know about your parents and based on the things that you see now, right before marriage? Or would it be better to put a little distance? Maybe not necessarily a whole a state or even a country, but maybe 30 minutes. Would 30 minutes make the difference? And just discuss these things while you're not having to make a decision. Because if you can kind of determine these things earlier when you're in that decision making process, you won't have the stress. You'll already have an idea of what you want to do.
right. And lastly, it's important to note, that each couple is going to have a different answer on this
Mm-hmm.
question, because the situation of family members is going to be different for each couple, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's really up to that couple to decide what's best for them. But we hope that the things that we mentioned before will help you go through that process of discussion and deciding that together. Well, if you'd like to see another pre-engaged mailbag video, please click on our contact form and send us a question. We'd love to hear from you and help you too. Great to be with you.